This is Howard the Teaserking coming to you with the 2021 NFL Draft. I just thought I would give you my point of view and opinion. Um, I'm just tired of hearing these guys on TV and radio with these mock drafts and all that crap. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Um, it really goes down to the coach and it really goes down to the GM if they're any good. Like, I love when these teams trade and they get all these draft picks. It doesn't matter. They don't know how to draft. Case in points, the Detroit Lions, the New York Jets, a lot of these teams, you could give them 20 draft picks. They're not going to get two guys that'll make the team because they don't have a clue what they're doing. They don't hire GMs that are football GMs. I don't know if they're just good with the cap or what, but you think you could hire a finance guy to do the cap, not a football guy. But they don't know how to draft. They don't know what to look for. There's variables that I look for when I pick the games, right? And what do I do? And you hear me, I'm betting on Russell Wilson. I'm betting on Joe Burrow. I'm betting on Joe Montana. I'm betting on the star, and he wins. I took Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. Why? Because it's Tom Brady. And I remember saying, they're not playing the steel curtain, they're playing Kansas City with an average defense, and they ripped them apart. So what you're looking for is how do I know? I mean, well, because I know how to spot talent, and I know skill set, and I know a winner and a loser, and I know a guy who comes to the line and is lost, and I know a guy who comes to the line and knows exactly where he's throwing the ball. So my case in point is like these Ohio State quarterbacks. Uh, if Urban Meyer, with the number one pick, needs a quarterback, and again, they made a terrible draft taking the other guy from Central Florida. Oh, I can't think of his name. God, he was terrible. Or Bortles, Blake Bortles. Why did they take him? He wasn't that good. If you go back to my draft video of that year, it clearly states it. They fall in love with these running quarterbacks who cannot survive in the league because you've got to throw the ball. You've got $1 million receivers. The idea is to throw the ball and get the defense confused. Are they running? Are they throwing? Options. The running quarterback, you're not going to cover the receivers because the guy can't throw the ball, i.e. Lamar Jackson's the perfect example, Michael Vick. All these guys that are runners don't win. I mean, yeah, Mahomes, he's not a runner, really. He can run. Russell Wilson is primarily a passer who can scramble on 3rd and 5 and pick up the 5 yards, but he's not running the ball like a Lamar Jackson who thinks he's a halfback, doesn't throw to the receivers. Or he throws interceptions in the big games against the better teams. You got Josh Allen doing that too. He's more of a runner than he is really a passer. So again, you got to be careful with that. You want a quarterback, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Mahomes. That's why these guys win, and that's why if you don't have them, they lose. Look at Jared Goff. He sucked, and the Rams lost because of him. They didn't win the Super Bowl because of him. If they had a better quarterback, they'd have won. The quarterback's key, but you can't have a running quarterback. So when I look at the Ohio State, you get into this impressive college stats, but not impressive pro stats. So let's go, and we're gonna take a look here at Dwayne Haskins, all right? 2018 stats. Plays 14 games, 174 quarterback ratings. I'm not sure what that means in college. He throws for 70%, 345 yards a game, 50 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. How can this guy not be a pro quarterback? 50 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. It doesn't make sense. Now we look at Kyle Murray, threw for 311, 42 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. So you can see the guys with the big stats, but does it translate into them being a good pro? And the answer is no. What did Tagliabue do in 2018? I think he had big stats. Yeah, Tag had 41 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, but only threw for 262 a game. Most of his were 5-yard passes, where he'd throw a 10-yard pass to the guy, and one of those fast guys like Waddle would then run for 80 yards to pad his stats. So where I'm going with this is here's Urban Meyer has a chance to draft Justin Fields. So we see what Dwayne Haskins did, 50-8, 345 a game. He can barely, he's not getting more touchdowns than interceptions. Can barely find a guy open, and he can't run, which was a big part of the Ohio State offense. So remember, Ohio State, they look at how many guys are in the box. The quarterback either runs or hands off, or he throws the ball to their good receivers, which makes them look better. So when you got an Ezekiel Elliott, and you got a Trey Sherman, and you got a whoever their running back was last year on Baltimore, whoever you have these power running backs, so you hand it to them, so the defense respects that. Then they can run a little bit, and the idea is they have 10 blockers, block 11 guys, and then the quarterback slips around. Or then you have them, when you need it, they're able to throw the ball to the great receivers and tight ends and even the running back. So the quarterback in that scheme looks a lot better because they don't run those schemes in the pros. So here's Urban Meyer. He has a chance to draft Justin Fields, but he won't because he wants to draft Mr. from Clemson, Trevor Lawrence. So when I look at Trevor Lawrence, last year was kind of weird. He was 22-4 throwing the ball. Not really a good look because he didn't play. Let's go with 2019 stats. And this will be what we'll base it on. But it just shows you that it's all the system, because that's why these quarterbacks don't translate into the pros better. So Trevor Lawrence in 2019 threw 36 touchdowns and 8 picks. Not a really great year. He chokes in the big games, Trevor Lawrence, where he lost to LSU, should have lost to Ohio State 2 years ago. Last year got killed by Ohio State, missed a few games. All right, so here's Justin Fields. 14 games in 2019, throws for 233 a game, 41 touchdowns and 3 picks. We just looked at Dwayne Haskins, right? And Dwayne Haskins was 50-4 or 50-6. So what does that tell you? It tells you it's a system. And if Justin Fields was really that good, Urban Meyer would take him at the first pick. He's got better stats than Trevor Lawrence, but he's going to take Trevor Lawrence, which makes no sense because I would expect him to run the Ohio State offense in the pros. It works in college. It should work in the pros. It's the same system. The problem is when they hit the quarterback in the pros, the quarterback gets injured and you can't replace your quarterback. So that's why they usually don't have a running quarterback. It never works. You need a passing quarterback. Now I'm looking here. He throws for 67%, but we just looked at Haskins was a 70% thrower in college. So what it tells you is it's a system. So that's why you don't get high on Ohio State quarterbacks. Because of their offensive system, they put up unusually unattainable stats that'll never work in the pros. So you can't look at a team that runs this. Again, North Dakota State runs this offense. Alabama runs a style of this offense. And therefore, you have to throw all that out. That's why these quarterbacks are never any good in the pros. Because they're not running a spread offense where they're not that Tagliabue ran and not that Matt Jones ran, but they ran a spread offense where they've got a bunch of little 5'10" guys they're not even that fast. I think Smith ran a 4.5 or something, the Heisman Trophy winner from Alabama. So it's not like they're even, that fast, but they run a spread. And again, in college, you're playing not pro defenses unless they play LSU or Ohio State. So when you play all the other teams, you build your stats, but they're kind of meaningless. So my point is, Justin Fields really isn't that good. Haskins can't even start on the Redskins, which is absolutely ridiculous with Ohio State stats. So you either need to run an Ohio State offense or you can't draft an Ohio State quarterback because they're not going to do good in the pros. And yes, you got radio hosts and TV hosts who say, well, yeah, that's not, Justin Fields, look at him. He can run, he can throw. That's not a quarterback. A quarterback's a thinker. Quarterback has to have a smart brain. The difference between Tom Brady and half the league is when Tom Brady gets under center or shotgun, whatever he's doing, he looks at the defense and he goes, this is where I'm throwing the ball. And he knows where he's throwing the ball. He picks up the blitz immediately and he throws it to the receiver where the blitzer's coming. And he very rarely gets sacked by the blitz. He knows how to handle it. Yeah, what happens to Josh Allen and half of these quarterbacks when the blitz comes? They don't even know it's there. They don't know how to get out of it. They either turn the ball over or they take a sack because they're not aware by looking at the defense that the blitz is even coming. That's the problem. The quarterback you want is the guy that can look at the secondary, look at the defense and go, oh, they're blitzing. And I have to then, because of their blitzing, I have to throw to the slot guy, or it's a quick pass to the running back or tight end or something. But I got 2 seconds to throw this ball. I know it's blitz and I know where it is, and that's the key to a quarterback. And none of these guys have it. They're not taught it. The coaches don't teach it. It's the first thing they should do. Is here comes a blitz. You read it. You call out the audible to the receiver, like Brady does, and that's why Brady's Brady and everybody else sits there like a bunch of morons getting sacked because they don't even know how to interpret there's a blitz coming. Anyway, so Justin Fields is not going to be good. Trevor Lawrence is not going to be good because in the big games, now in the ACC, they don't play anybody. The best team sometimes is Miami, sometimes is Virginia Tech. Nobody really strong. They're not playing an Alabama or an LSU or an Auburn or a Georgia or Florida unless it's a playoff game. And we see how he does in those. He's terrible. Trevor Lawrence lost to Ohio State this year. Last year he really lost to them. They got a fluke bad call on a fumble return Ohio State had, which would have won them the game. But he didn't do anything. He ran like for an 80-yard touchdown, but he I don't think was 50% on his throwing. And in the NFL, you're not going to be running. We've seen this. We've seen Lamar Jackson get into a game against a good team, and what does he do? He folds, he throws interceptions. You're not going to run. He runs against these teams with bad coaches that don't know. All you do is blitz the guy. I mean, it's not that hard. You blitz him and cover short, and yet some of these coaches haven't figured out how to blitz. I don't know what it is. Put more speed on the field and you neutralize them, and the guy's nothing. Baltimore would be better with Trace McSorley at quarterback. Buffalo will be better if they get smart enough to bring in Jake Fromm. And all these teams needing a quarterback, i.e. San Francisco, Detroit, Chicago. Man, Jake Fromm's sitting there. Jake Fromm is there. He's sitting and back up at Buffalo. Trade for him. It's not that difficult. He's better than anybody you're going to see in this draft. Maybe, probably anybody. He's definitely better than Lawrence and Fields. Zach Wilson, okay. I think he's good. Anyway, but other than that, Jake Fromm's better than them. I still think Will Grier from West Virginia. I don't know why he's not starting. He's sitting there. That guy's a great quarterback. Where is he playing? And then they go after these running quarterbacks. So here's my top 5 quarterbacks for this year's draft. Number 1 would be Zach Wilson, BYU. Fabulous player, very good quarterback. He's a leader. He's a winner. He took a bad BYU team and they won, and that's the mark of a good quarterback. Justin Fields takes a great Ohio State team, but doesn't do anything. Although this year was really tough, but even last year they lost to Clemson in the playoffs. And that's how you measure it. Tug Tagliavua from Alabama, like I said, he's nothing. He throws 5-yard passes. They're not going to win with Tug Tagliavua. Look at the Buffalo game. Buffalo doesn't even need the game. Miami somehow is favored at Buffalo, and Buffalo wins by 40 points. In a big game, where's Tug Tagliavua doesn't show up. The 5-yard passes that worked in college because he had Waddle and Smith and these real fast receivers. Ruggs, they're not there. They're not running that system. So either Miami needs to run the Alabama system, or Tug Tagliavua ain't going to do crap. My second pick. So you've got my second pick would be Sam Ellinger from Texas, real strong. I'll use his 19 stats because it's hard to use last year's stats. Sam Ellinger in 2019, 32 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 281. Last year was very strong. Well, let me look and see if I get enough stats from 2020 for him. Again, with COVID, it's a real difficult look to use any of the stats. It was so screwed up. I'm just waiting. My third pick is going to be the guy from SMU, Shane Buechele, who used to be, I believe, at Texas. He transferred from Texas, so another Texas guy. All right, here's the 2020. Oh, by the way, so Zach Wilson went 29 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and threw for basically 300 yards a game. Where's the Big 12? Oh, there they are. Okay, so Sam Ellinger last year was 25 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 267 yards, but this was only in 9 games. He's a winner. They didn't lose because of him. They lost because their defense gave up 40 points a game. He's a very good quarterback. Nobody's talking about him for God knows what reason. The guy wins the games at the end. That's what you're looking for. That's what Joe Montana did. Brady did it when he played at Michigan, which was not as much as he should have. That's why Lloyd Carr isn't coaching there anymore. You got a guy like Brady and you don't recognize that talent. There's a problem. So you got Ellinger and you got Shane Buechele from SMU. How did he look? And then I think right in that bunch, I have Kyle Trask from Florida. 43 touchdowns and 5 interceptions last year. 375 a game. This guy's a winner. He threw up 40-some on Alabama. You can't fault the defenses, right? Texas's defense, SMU's defense, So you can't blame Florida, but he did beat Georgia. So he's 43-5. So I think I got Trask second. I'm looking for SMU here. Oh, here. Shane Buechele, 23-6 in 10 games last year, threw for 310, had a big upset, I think, over UCF, and I think he beat a Big 12 team. I don't have all that info right handy. Another one's Brady White from Memphis, who 28-9, throws for 310 a game. Tanner Morgan's not in this draft. Is very good. And the best quarterback for next year is the kid from Indiana, Penix. Michael Penix is the best quarterback playing college next year. But he's not out for the draft. He was injured, so keep that in mind. So, number one is going to be the BYU guy, Zach Wilson. I think number two is Kyle Trask. Number three is Sam Ellinger, Texas. Number four is Shane Buechele, SMU. And number five is probably Brady White. I honestly don't see I would say Justin Fields is a third or fourth rounder. I would say Trevor Lawrence is a third rounder. I would say this Trey Lance, I don't get him. All right, he has a big year 2 years ago. He's played 1 year. Now, the rule of quarterbacks are you want somebody who's played 4 years. Buechele, Ellinger played 4 years, and not the BYU guy. And then Trask played, I think, 3 years at Florida, but you take into consideration Florida, they're playing Georgia, Alabama, LSU. They have a monster schedule against pro talent. So when Kyle Trask does it, it's like when Joe Burrow did it. So Kyle Trask is very good. So Wilson and Trask and Buechele and Ellinger are really the top four, maybe Brady White. And that's what you want. Now, Lawrence is a second-round pick at best. He's not that good. He runs a lot. Again, he's a running quarterback. Trey Lance, that guy, I wouldn't draft that guy maybe fifth, sixth round. I don't see why they're making a big deal out of him because he wins at North Dakota State, running a Ohio State offense. He runs the ball, so he's an athlete, which doesn't really translate to anything. So I don't really get that. I see, I just look at that quarterback and I don't get what they're seeing. Justin Fields, all of a sudden, an Ohio State quarterback is going to turn it on when none of them have before. The proof in the pudding with Ohio State is that third stringer, Jones. I want to call him Caldwell Jones, but he played for the Sixers. I can't think of his first name. But he came in as a third stringer and he wins the title. And that shows you it's the system. Anybody can go. You got a third stringer, he can win the title for you. All he's got to do is throw the ball. But then next year when he was the quarterback, he couldn't do anything. And he gets drafted. Why, I don't know. And he couldn't do anything. You cannot draft a quarterback who only plays about a year. Not even. If they don't play at least 3 full years, you cannot draft a quarterback in the NFL and expect him to win. So those are my top 5. Then Lawrence somewhere in the second round. Fields, third, fourth rounder. Trey Lance, maybe you drafted him as a wide receiver or punt returner. Not a quarterback, not with 1 year. And then the kid from Alabama, Jones. So what do you do with Jones, Mac Jones? You've got a system play here. I'll tell you, I like the LSU quarterback better than I like Mac Jones, but he got injured. And, he's only played a little bit. But once this year, if he plays a lot, I really like the LSU quarterback. So let's see. Miles Brennan, yeah, he was 11-3 before he got hurt in 3 games. That guy's a good quarterback. So let's look at Mac Jones. Mac Jones, Alabama, 76%, which shows a lot of short passes. 339 a game, 32 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. So let's look at Kyle Trask, 375 a game, 43 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Mac Jones, 32 and 4. Kyle Trask, 70%. Mac Jones, 76%. They both had similar receivers, where Trask had Tony and the tight end, who's really a receiver. And that guy sat out a lot. He was a crybaby. Oh, I'm injured. But he could play in the big games. Against Georgia, he's playing. Against Kentucky, he doesn't play. I hate players like that. So if I look at Trask versus Jones, I'm taking Trask by a mile, right? 375 a game to 339, 43 touchdowns to 32, 5 interceptions to 4. He beat Georgia and almost beat Alabama in the championship game. Alabama has a lot of Najee Harris running the ball, very good running back. I like him. And it's a lot of Devontae Smith making catches. Mac Jones will not have that talent in the pros. If wherever he goes. If I'm San Francisco, now again, if you watch my tape, I said not to take Garoppolo. What do? They take him, pay him a lot of money for really I didn't understand the reason, and then here it is. He's out. He's not very good. Same thing here. So Mac Jones, would I take him? I'd take Kyle Trask. If I was Frisco, I would take Kyle Trask if he's there at 3 or 4, whenever they pick. So my first pick would be Zach Wilson. If I'm Jacksonville, and I have no faith, and I'm not going to run the Ohio State offense, I am never taking Fields, and I am never taking Lawrence, because Lawrence is an Ohio State-style runner. He wants to run the ball more than pass. I don't see a better arm on him than Kyle Trask. I don't see a better arm on him than Mac Jones. So, number 1 would be Zach Wilson. Number 2 to the Jets, then I would take Kyle Trask or I would take Sam Ellinger. Now, the Jets suck, so I want Ellinger who can run a little bit more. Trask is the potent pocket passer. If I'm the Niners, I take Kyle Trask. If I'm the Bears, I trade for my buddy Jake Fromm, who's sitting in Buffalo, and they're all in love with Josh Allen, and they're not going to win anything with Josh Allen because he can't read a blitz, and he can't handle a blitz. So you blitz him, and he's turning the ball over. Look at the Kansas City game. They couldn't even score on Kansas City. So they looked really impressive in all these games because they're not rushing him, and they had no running back. All of a sudden, he goes into a big game with Kansas City for go to the Super Bowl. What does he do? Excuse me. He doesn't show up. They can't even score 10 points with the guy. He doesn't know what team to throw it to. A lot of turnovers. Can't read a blitz. Jake Fromm, I guarantee you can read a blitz because he played for Georgia. He played against Florida, Kentucky, Alabama, LSU. I think Florida plays LSU every year, and I know they play Georgia every year, and Kentucky, which has very good defenses. So, you're sitting there like kind of like I hear these idiots on the radio and the TV, and I can't figure out where they're coming up with this stuff. So Mac Jones, it's really hard to say because it's such a system, but he's more of a drop-back passer. The question is, can he read the blitz? And I don't know that that's shown in the Alabama games because they get rid of the ball so quickly. So, again, it's a system type of quarterback. Maybe he'll be okay. He'll definitely be better than Lawrence and Fields and Trey Lance. All those Trey Lance types never work. Jalen Hurts can't hit the broadside of a barn. If Philly's making that guy their quarterback, they're lucky to get to win 5 games. Like I said, all these teams that need it, there's Jake Fromm, there's Will Grier. What are you doing, man? Make a trade for those. There's not always like What are they looking for? You can't see. They're looking at pro day. I heard one guy on the radio, and he goes back over the top 5 or top 10 quarterbacks in the last 10, 15 years of draft, and he's saying, this guy sucked, that guy sucked. How do they keep missing? Because I don't know what they don't know what they're looking at. Why am I looking at Kyle Trask? Because I watched him beat Georgia. I watched him against Alabama. I'm watching his games. I'm not looking. I don't care what he does in pro day in shorts and a t-shirt, throwing a ball with no rush. Half of quarterbacking is knowing where to throw, how many are in the box, where's the blitz coming from, and where do I do it, and to recognize it before the ball snaps. That's being a quarterback. Joe Montana. All those guys, Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre. Now you got Brady. I mean, that's what you look for. They know where they're throwing it before they get the ball, but half these guys don't. Kyle Trask will know what to do with it, and that's what they're taught. So I don't really get. Trevor Lawrence doesn't know what to do with the ball. So I don't get why Trevor Lawrence is God's gift here. As a freshman, Clemson won. The next 2 years, they didn't do anything. Last year, they should never have lost to Ohio State, but Ohio State killed them. And that was revenge game. And the year before against Ohio State, he didn't show up. So in both Ohio State games where he's playing pro defenses, he doesn't show up. All right, so that's my top pro quarterbacks and how they should be drafted. So again, I wouldn't touch Lawrence till the second round, if that. I wouldn't draft Fields. He'd be at best a backup. Again, Dwayne Haskins, it's terrible. I mean, unless you plan on running the Ohio State offense, you don't draft an Ohio State quarterback. North Dakota State, you don't draft them. I mean, unless you move to it. But that's what blows my mind is Urban Meyer. What is he doing? Why isn't he drafting Fields and making it an Ohio State offense? It was very successful at Ohio State. Are you afraid it won't work in the pros? Then that's probably why he's never coached in the pros, and then he won't be successful. He's good at charging the players up. I'm not sure you can do that in the pros and hold a scholarship over them or say, oh, I love you guys, go out and win, and they get all fired up. This is the pros. They get paid. I don't know. I think he's a great coach, Urban Meyer. I love Urban Meyer. I've made thousands and thousands of dollars betting on him all the way back to Utah. I think it was Utah. Yeah, when he first came on and they went undefeated. I think that was at Utah. So since then, I've been making a fortune on the guy, and I hope he does good at Jacksonville. I don't know who his backup is, but that's who he'll be using more than Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is not, going to be there. The rest of the draft, how you draft. Okay, anybody that drafts a wide receiver in the first 5 picks, the only one that should is Cincinnati because they have Joe Burrow, and they should grab Jamar Chase because he went to LSU. I'm not sure how good Chase is going to be without Jefferson, without Eclair, and sitting out the year. I think a guy who sits out the year, I'm very skeptical. None of the guys who sit out bowl games do anything. Fournette finally did something with Tampa because Brady's down his throat saying, you better play here. But before that, he was a bust. He sits out the bowl. So I have a hard time with these guys that really don't want to play or they're afraid of injury. Those guys should not be playing pro football because they don't have the heart for it. Anyway, the rest of any of these bad teams like Detroit and Chicago, if they can't grab the quarterback, you should be drafting defensive ends and linebackers, cornerbacks, safety. Well, I think you got to get a stud defensive lineman and a stud linebacker, somebody fast who can edge rush, a Lawrence Taylor type. That's who you get in the first round. Once you pass the first round, then you get your offensive and defensive linemen who are good. You get your secondary help. but you need to build defense. You don't need offense. You get your offense in the first round, and you don't waste the first few picks with the wide receiver. That comes later. That comes mid-first round, and it depends. Like Cincinnati needs a wide receiver, so you draft one. I think the Lions need a wide receiver, but God, they need defense first. The problem is most of these GMs don't know what they're doing. They have no clue what they're doing, how to do it, what to look for. So all I can say, my advice is, if I'm the GM, first of all, my team would be in the playoffs every year. Secondly, is you watch the games. You watch this stud who plays for USC or UCLA or Washington, and he constantly disrupts the offense. Or this great cornerback they don't even throw to, a Richard Sherman type. That's who you draft. Because if they do it in college, they're going to do it in the pro. Forget the pro day. Forget the time. They're playing fast. To take a Richard Sherman in college, and I know he played wide receiver a lot, but take that type. So you want a cornerback. And you watch him play these games against fast receivers, maybe against Alabama. And this is why I love taking LSU guys. So you watch them against an Alabama with all their speed, and you see there's not too many completions. Well, they're facing fast guys, so you don't need a 40 time. You don't need a pro day. All you need is to watch LSU play Alabama, and LSU shut them down, and that's all your answers. Okay, I'm taking that cornerback, that safety, this linebacker, this defensive lineman. That's why I say take guys from LSU, because when they shut down in Alabama with this style of offense, it tells you they're great players, and that's who I want to draft. Alabama never shuts anybody down with a good quarterback. Alabama's all system. I wouldn't touch too many players from him. Najee Harris I would touch. Devontae Smith, he's a slot receiver. I really wouldn't maybe take him mid-first round if I really need a wide receiver. But look at Denver last year. They got Drew Lock, and then they pick up two wide receivers. Judy from Alabama, who did nothing, and the guy from Penn State. And what did that do for him? It didn't do anything for him. That's not the end. And now they're getting rid of Locke because, well, he played a year and he didn't really do much. So therefore, let's get rid of him and bring in a new quarterback. But again, they don't know what they're looking for. I again said don't take Drew Lock. I again would have traded for Jake Fromm. I don't understand that. He's sitting there. Trade for him. He's the man. He played for Georgia against Alabama, and he beat Florida countless times with their great defense. He's a winner. What are you doing? He's sitting on Buffalo. Just trade for him. Trade a second-round, third-round draft pick for him, for Christ's sake, and just get him. That's what you're looking for. So, again, you draft your offensive lineman starting in maybe round 2 after you've taken 2 or 3 picks. So you want, if you need the quarterback, I gave you the quarterbacks. The best running backs, Najee Harris, and the kid from Buffalo, Patterson. And you pick them up in the second round, late first round. You need offensive linemen, second round and back. Pick up as much defense as you can get. Mostly edge rushers, defensive linemen that can really make a disruption. Linebackers that are like LT, and then you get a big hitter, safety, or cornerback, because you need a lot of those. You need speed, and that would be it. And that's how you draft. You never draft an offensive lineman in the first round. I'm sure Tampa Bay didn't draft any offensive lineman in the first round. It's not about the offensive linemen. They're all good. You take a guy from Notre Dame, Nebraska, Michigan, Ohio State in the 6th round who started for them, and believe me, he'll be fine. Again, the key with football is injuries. You cannot draft a stud and pay him $30 million. You can't afford to pay one guy $30 million unless it's Tom Brady. You can't do it. You have to spread it out because of the injuries. So you get a stud offensive lineman. He hurts his shoulder and he's out. Now what? Now your backup stinks because you put all this money into an offensive lineman, which is the wrong position. Just like a wide receiver, it's the wrong position. You can win with good receivers. You don't need. All right, Jerry Rice. That's every 25 years you get a Jerry Rice. But they didn't even have to pay for that. They just got him in the draft. Nobody even knew about him. But, I mean, that's the point. You don't need Jerry Rice to win. Swan and Stallworth came in, and Swan was a first-rounder. That's the type of guy you want in the first round. But the Steelers had the great defense, and they had Franco Harris and Bradshaw. So they only needed a wide receiver. Then it makes sense, and it took them to the Super Bowl in 74 because in 72 they had no receivers. 73 the Raiders shut them out in the playoffs. That's when they made their move by bringing in Swan and Stallworth, but that was the only need they had. And when you get to that point, when you draft a wide receiver with the 5th pick, a guy like Lynn Swan, a guy like Jerry Rice. But otherwise, you need your defense. That's the first thing you need, and that's how you should draft. All right, well, I'll be back next week with my draft analysis. I'm going to do some other investment. My background, I have a master's in classical or Austrian economics and finance, and I want to do some tapes on economics and what's going on out there, because it's getting very shaky out there from an economic standpoint. So I want to go into that in my next video, which I'll probably do later today. Anyway, enjoy the draft. You know what to look for, and it'll be funny watching them blow the draft and then wondering, why did I blow it? So enjoy the week. I hope everybody's feeling okay, and having a good day. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. Again, it's Howard the Teaser King. www.teaserking.com. Have a nice week.